just us today, so we can start off the rails.
Don't even want to wait till the end. Just start off the rails.
Hey, if somebody had been paying attention, the nice people come to our show, and here you are just looking down.
At my phone?
At your phone.
Yes, at the stories we're about to talk about.
I'm sorry, I respect you more than Shelley. Let me apologize for Shelley. God, so.
Maybe I need to be, go to do a self-criticism session.
No, I'm happy to criticize you all by myself. So, the news this week, well, technically last week, I guess, but hey, there has been like a new, in the salami slicing that China is doing to conquer Taiwan, they just cut off a big old piece.
Of salami.
Of a big old slice of salami. There's several incidents that happened. First, there were Chinese fishermen in the areas around Kinmen, which we've been to. That was a wonderful time. It's just off the coast of China. You can see China from this Taiwanese island. And then the Chinese fishermen were in the area, and then there was this big chase with the Taiwanese Coast Guard, and the fisherman boat capsized.
The fisherman boat didn't they were unregistered. They didn't have like a number or name or whatever. They were in Taiwanese waters.
Yeah, you're right. It's fishermen, Chinese fishermen.
Well, I mean, they could have actually.
Let's say they were legitimate fishermen and not necessarily maritime militia, because we don't know. But what we do know is that they were definitely violating Taiwanese maritime rules.
Yes.
Right. And so, what do you normally do? The Coast Guard says, "Hey, you're violating the rules." And they will, take some action, right? Could be punitive, or could just be,
get out of the water,
go cross the median line.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
What, are you paying attention now, Shelley?
No, I was just going to say it's probably not the median line, but anyway, go ahead.
Sorry, whatever the line they call between Kinmen and Xiamen that separates Taiwanese and Chinese waters.
But so anyways, these fishermen, which, in context, China does have this whole maritime militia using fishermen as basically a branch of the military unofficially. So we don't really know if these were fishermen. But they ran. The Taiwanese Coast Guard pursued. At some point, the fishing boat capsized.
Thank you for illustrating that, Chris.
And even though everyone was rescued, I guess two of the Chinese fishermen did die.
Like at the hospital in Taiwan.
Yeah. So obviously, this was this is what China's salami slicing does. It's always these dangerous things that the risk is always somebody might actually die. And this time, somebody actually died.
Yeah. No, it's really sad because, people didn't have to die on this.
Sorry.
Yeah, that part. Yeah. But then, the incident does not end there, unfortunately.
No, well, because there was this, first of all, a big backlash in Chinese state media about how, the Taiwanese aggression
on these poor, defenseless fishermen.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so then China announced that it would start to do more. Its Coast Guard would start doing more patrols, and they're getting closer and closer to Taiwanese water. And then they actually boarded a Taiwanese tour boat.
I mean, why let a good crisis go to waste?
Who said that?
That's
from something.
It is from something.
Was it a James Bond movie?
I've not
Tomorrow Never Dies.
Actually watched any James Bond movies.
You've never
to completion.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I have been, in the vicinity when other people were watching James Bond movies.
Been in the vicinity of a James Bond movie.
My dad would watch James Bond movies, and I kind of catch 10 minutes of it here or there.
The ones with Pierce Brosnan?
I don't remember, or the old ones with Sean Connery and I can't remember
Timothy
the other guy.
Dalton
And
Roger Moore.
Yes, Roger Moore. I couldn't remember his name, but I didn't really sit down and watch an entire one. I've never watched a Daniel Craig one. I tried to watch one and I fell asleep halfway through. And I don't think that's not anything about James Bond movies. It's just I was super tired and it was late at night.
How do you feel about this, Matt?
About Shelley never watching James Bond?
I feel like we should rectify that. Yeah, have you?
Yes.
Have you also never seen Star Wars?
Me?
Yeah.
I've seen the original Star Wars as a kid.
Okay.
Because my dad was into it in the 80s. And then I've seen I've never seen any of the first,
the episodes 1, 2, 3.
The prequels.
Yeah. maybe seen like 10 minutes of the first one, and then I've saw the 7 and 8, but I did not watch the Rise of Skywalker or whatever.
Okay, well, there's no need for you to watch the Star Wars prequels, but the James Bond movies, I think we all need to do movie night.
We do. Dune 2 is coming out. Anyways, so yeah, they boarded a Taiwanese tour boat. That was a little too. It was getting a little too off the rails even for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the nice people are hearing this nice story about.
Yeah, we're not here to talk about movies.
No, we're not. Yeah, so like this is a major escalation, and now Taiwan is warning these Taiwanese boats that like if Chinese Coast Guard is like, we are boarding you, don't let them board, because in this case, basically everything was fine. Like the Chinese Coast Guard eventually left, but who knows what might happen.
I'm now picturing like the Chinese Coast Guard takes the Taiwanese tour boat hostage. It's like weird stuff, yeah.
But it's not that weird. It
Right.
could happen.
Well, the thing is, it's very one-sided, right? Because the PRC claims that, like, basically there's what Taiwanese sovereign territory, right? It doesn't exist from their perspective. So for them, it's no problem to just board a Taiwanese boat
Because it's
or
a
to encroach
Chinese
into theirs.
boat.
Exactly. But the Taiwanese, meanwhile, are like, well, our status quo, which we adhere to, stipulates that you have this separation. So it's very hard for Taiwan to respond in the same way that the CCP is doing things, because like in a rule of law system, you cannot do that.
It's also Kinmen is like a weird, like in terms of the feelings in Kinmen about mainland China and Taiwan. It's kind of like a weird place because they were bombarded with artillery shells.
Yeah, China really actually tried to invade.
They tried to invade and failed. What, like twice?
Yeah.
And then after the second time, they just like contented themselves with like, hurling artillery shells, most of them which were not explosives. They had like propaganda leaflets on the inside of the shells for like, what was it, 20 some years?
A good long while.
At Kinmen. So, imagine living in this place where like you're getting shelled like 3 times a week. But then like to the point where they had these underground bunkers and you could actually walk underground right between houses because they had these places to take cover when you were being shelled. But at the same time, when the CCP started to do this like whole soft takeover of Taiwan thing and they wanted to use economic stuff to bring Taiwan closer to the mainland, they really worked hard on Kinmen, right? Like when we were there, remember there was that one street that had just like a bunch of like
PRC flags.
PRC flags.
Yeah.
And so, because Kinmen historically, it doesn't have the Taiwanese identity as strongly as Taiwan, the island, does.
Mhm.
So then you had this kind of like people being like, oh, well, it's good to be economically closer to mainland China. And so
Right.
it's like a weird kind of mix of feelings there.
Yeah, but it is under the authority of the Taiwanese government.
Yeah, but if there was anywhere that the CCP could take over, that's part of Taiwan.
Yeah, and would the other countries come to Taiwan's defense if all the CCP did was to say, oh, we're just taking, they take Kinmen, oh, we're done, that's it, we're just taking Kinmen, kind of like a Crimea situation, right? Where like there's strong words of condemnation when Russia took over Crimea in 2014, but then nobody did anything. But then later there's like a much bigger invasion.
I think it would depend. Like if Taiwan was like, nope, we are fighting a war, and then there would be a war.
Right.
And then it couldn't be treated as just like, oh, well, maybe they'll stop there.
Right.